Good afternoon, dear participants. Mr. Pradeep David, country from Universal Robots, and our own Mr. Rajesh Nath, Managing Director, VDMA India. A hearty welcome to all of you today's webinar interactive session on MSME Factory of the Future. Stay competitive in the COVID era, utilizing COBOTS, that is the human robots across. This webinar is organized by VDMA, partnering with our member Universal Robots, who are the pioneering automation solution provider in India using COBOTS. More interesting applications on the COBOTS would be explained by Mr. Pradeep, who is an eloquent speaker for the day-to-day. We hope all of you and your families and working teams are all safe and doing well. I am S. Manohar, based out of Bangalore office of VDMA, would be taking you through the initial part of today's webinar. Dear friends, a brief VDMA is one of the largest association in Europe, headquartered Frankfurt. VDMA has more than 3,300 members under its fold, employing more than 1 million people and 232 billion euros of production cumulatively. And most interestingly, 78% of those production is exported out of Germany. Our institution, VDMA, is 127 years old, celebrated 125 years 2 years back. We have organized the entire structure of VDMA into 38 sectors across various engineering categories. And of course, what you have today, robotics and automation, is one of the key sectors which is utilized in the automotive sector and various other applications within the VDMA fraternity. We have offices apart from India, China, Brazil, Russia, Japan, and Belgium, other than the European Union. Today, friends, we have a very interesting topic across, that is a COBOTS application. Before that, we would have the welcome address by our own Mr. Rajesh Nath, Managing Director, followed by Mr. Pradeep presentation. And of course, Mr. Nath would be there to ask Mr. Pradeep what all the questions that you posted across. What we request you, dear friends, is post all your questions under the question section, which is available on your screen, and they will be answered in the last leg of the webinar. We are also presently recording this webinar, and just to keep you informed and for the same purpose of security reasons. Dear friends, I would like to now invite our Mr. Rajesh Nath, Managing Director VDMA, for his welcome address. Mr. Nath has been a strong promoter of Indo-German relations for almost 2 decades. He has been the face of India, driving the engineering sector towards aligning towards Indo-German relations. He has more than 29 years of experience working in various industries in India and Germany. The most significant achievement of his has been that he was accorded the Cross of the Order of Merit, which is highest civilian order from the civilian award from the German president for promoting Indo-German trade over 2 years back. Dear Mr. Nath, over to you across.
Yeah. Thank you, Manohar. Good afternoon, friends. A hearty welcome to this webinar on MSME Factory of the Future. Stay competitive in the COVID-19 era with collaborative robots, being organized by the German Engineering Federation, VDMA, in association with Universal Robots. I extend a warm welcome to Mr. Pradeep David, General Manager for South Asia at Universal Robots. Pleasure to have you with us, Pradeep, today at this webinar. As the world emerges from the grip of COVID-19 pandemic, business leaders from various sectors are strategically focusing on risk factors that would affect their companies in the future. As the solution, automation offers the opportunity to reduce cost and boost the industries post the pandemic. The current situation is pushing business leaders to look at innovative solutions. Automation technologies such as cloud, artificial intelligence, and robotic process automation have the potential to increase service availability, reducing cost, and thus increasing efficiency after the crisis. This innovative approach can help companies to be prepared for the uncertainties. Since Mr. Pradeep David will be talking in details about the collaborative robots and its application in the manufacturing industry, I will dwell more on automation and digital manufacturing for the MSME sector. Digital manufacturing is a part of the larger wave of Industry 4.0, an integration of industrial processes with Internet of Things. It blends manufacturing with evolving IT systems, including artificial intelligence, virtual reality, allowing the entire production line to be monitored through sensors in real time. This saves costs, increases quality, shrinks the production development cycle, and manages the processes right up to e-commerce and logistics. It is also a job creator. According to Michel Mandel, Chief Economist at Progressive Policy Institute, the world has been focusing on the razzmatazz of technology. Old-fashioned manufacturing is going through an exciting transition. We are moving from a linear supply chain world to a much more adaptable Internet of goods with a new manufacturing stack akin to the Internet stack. The remaking of manufacturing process could have not come at a better time for India. With very few exceptions, the country has never really developed a competitive manufacturing base. Manufacturing adds 16% of value to India's GDP and is valued at around 390 to 400 billion in revenues. This accounts for just 2% of the global manufacturing, compared to 18% for USA, 20% for China, 10% for Japan, and around 7% for Germany. In fact, only two Indian sectors are truly integrated into the global supply chain: automotive and pharma. The National Manufacturing Policy of 2011 and the 2015 Make in India initiative projects that manufacturing could contribute up to 25% to India's GDP by 2025. To receive investments and build an advanced industrial base that includes the SME sector, India must develop new skills, processes, and products, and most importantly, upgrade its academic, research, and vocational sectors accordingly. India already is halfway there. Its global IT service sector, while currently export focused, can use its talent domestically to develop models for data analytics. This is the most difficult part of digital manufacturing: marrying machines with digital tools to analyze the data. As per Cisco India SMB Digital Maturity Study 2020, the digitalization of small and medium businesses, SMBs, could add US dollars 158 to 216 billion to India's GDP by 2024 and contribute to the country's economic recovery post COVID-19. The study shows that SMBs that are more digitally mature enjoy twice as many benefits in terms of revenue and productivity compared to those that have an indifferent approach to digitization. Further, the study highlights that 68% of Indian SMBs seek to digitally transform to new products and services, differentiate themselves from the competition, and grow, while 60% recognize that competition is transforming and they must keep pace, and 50% seek digital transformation due to customer demand for change. Further, a shortage of digital skills and access to talent and lack of necessary technologies are the top hurdles for SMBs in their digital transformation efforts. A substantial increase in artificial intelligence by Indian firms can result in a 2.5% increase in India's GDP in immediate term, a study has found. The study has used investments in software, database, and computer machinery as a proxy for AI and has measured AI intensity as the ratio of AI to total sales of the firms. Mr. Amitabh Kant, CEO, Niti Aayog, said artificial intelligence has become a strategic lever for economic growth across nations and will continue to be one of the most crucial technologies in the future. By integrating new technologies like AI and machine learning into various sectors, we can radically leapfrog and catch up with advanced economies. Hence, friends, the need of the hour is to adopt baby steps in automation, which can generate a faster return of investment and can be implemented without high capital expenditure. Here, collaborative robots provide a cost-effective, flexible, and safe automation solution for a wide range of production tasks to help solve labor shortage, increase productivity, and improve product quality. I'm sure the following presentation would highlight many of these aspects, and we look forward to an insightful and interesting presentation from Mr. Pradeep David. Before the presentation from Pradeep, we will have a quick poll question. Can we have the poll, please, Manohar? So, friends, as per the poll, are you using robotic applications in your shop floor or in your factory? The options, yes. Second option is planned to use in the next 12 months. The third option is you're not clear on benefits of robots. And the last option is you don't have any plans at all of using robotic applications. So friends, please, the poll is open. Please vote now. And we'll give about 30 to 40 seconds for you to complete your voting. So maybe another 5 to 10 seconds and then we'll close the poll. So Manohar, can we close the poll now? So friends, in fact, 35% say they are using robotic applications on their shop floor or in their factories. I think which is very, very encouraging. And then we have about 18% plan to use it in the next 12 months. 23% are not clear on the benefits of robots. So Pradeep, I think today's interaction would be very useful. And 24% at the moment have no plans, but I'm sure as they go ahead or maybe in the next period, certainly this could be one of the options. Friends, now I would like to hand it over to my colleague Manohar to introduce Mr. Pradeep David. Thank you. Manohar, I think you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm sorry. Mr. Nath, thank you very much for your elaborate explanation on the benefits of automation and how the cobots and robots could be intensely used in today's factory shop floor. I'm sure Mr. Pradeep, after watching 23% not clear on the benefit, would be able to talk more in detail on this. So let's welcome now Mr. Pradeep David, General Manager South Asia, Universal Robots, who will be talking to you the next few minutes, explaining the purpose of this webinar and the benefits of robots. Pradeep David is the General Manager for South Asia at Universal Robots. He's an highly qualified expert in robotics and industrial automation with a master's in robotics from Clemson University, USA, and MBA from USA. With over more than 30 years of experience, Pradeep has worked with Organizations like Rockwell Automation in US, Singapore, and India. In a short span of time, he has become a name to reckon with for setting up and leading the operation for South Asia region for the Denmark-based Universal Robots, the leading manufacturer of advanced, user-friendly, and lightweight collaborative robotic arms. Mr. Pradeep, it's over to you. The floor is yours and all the way forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Manohar. And let's see if I've got the presentation rights.
Yeah, it's yours. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So in just a second, I'll share my screen and hopefully you're able to see my screen now. Can you just confirm that, Manohar, you can see the screen?
No, Pradeep, we are not able to see your screen as yet. Yeah.
Okay. No one can see the screen.
Yeah, now we can see.
Now it's
Okay, great. Thank you. So thanks a lot, Mr. Rajesh Nath and Mr. Manohar from VDMA. Appreciate the introduction and this opportunity to talk to VDMA members. Really appreciate the introduction given by Mr. Nath. I think it sets the economic context of collaborative robots and manufacturing in general, and how India really has a long way to go in catching up in the manufacturing sector. 2% of world's manufacturing is in India, where we probably need to be in the 10% range. So how do we get there? Let's see if we have some answers. So what you're seeing on the screen looks like a human arm, right? And hopefully you'll be able to see behind me, a cobot is actually moving around. And just imagine that it's a human arm. Okay, so imagine if your operator had a third arm, how much more productive would he be? With this third arm never getting tired and always with an accuracy of 100 microns being able to load, let's say, a CNC machine or a VNC. And like I said, works 24/7. You don't need to worry about attendance and those kind of things. So let's take a look at some applications of cobots today. Since we're in the COVID era, it only makes sense to talk about this human arm kind of thing called a cobot, collaborative robot, dispensing some fluid out here. This happens to be in Singapore Polytechnic, where let's assume that there was a person who was contaminated on your factory. You can move this around on an AGV with a whole tub of some disinfectant fluid, and without putting human beings in danger, that's spraying that area. The middle picture actually shows collaborative robot arm, very sensitive. It's got a touch sensor at the end of it, so it can actually feel the back of your throat while it's doing the throat swab. So even if you do cough, you're not coughing into the face of a doctor or somebody. It's just a robotic arm, right? Inanimate object. Or the bottom right, where the collaborative robot on an AGV again is handling a UV wand. So let's say that computer station happened to have a COVID positive person. You're going and disinfecting the whole thing without putting anybody at risk. Okay. So here are simple examples in the COVID era. It's used for social distancing. When you put a cobot in between two people, you've automatically got 6 feet between two people. And labor is hard to get today, right? So if you look at Bajaj Auto with 150 cobots there today, automatic social distancing, when you have a human being, a cobot, and a human being, the social distancing is automatically provided. Okay? Respirators, sanitizing equipment, detecting and testing. So PPEs, cobots are being used for all these different kind of things today. But we're here to learn about what it's going to do in our factories. So 4 main things. I already talked about social distancing. So while you see this lady in Bajaj working here, you see the collaborative robot is so lightweight, it can be hung upside down from the ceiling, it can be machine mounted, or it could be pedestal mounted on the floor, with using up very little space on your shop floor. So automatic social distancing, quick deployment and redeployment, or flexible redeployment. This is a major one. You saw in the COVID slides, we were taking it and doing a disinfectant application. In fact, there's a company called SEAT in Spain that makes cars, and they took the collaborative robots that was actually doing some screw driving, and they moved it to make respirators about 2 months ago when Spain was topping the list. And once the respirators were made, the cobot was taken and moved back into the production assembly line. So that's what we mean by redeployment. Did you ever think that you can take a robot within a shift? The other operator called an absent, second shift operator. I can move this cobot like these people are doing in Chakan from one line to the other, and it is now operational on that line. Or maybe my production run, I don't have that many orders on this particular VMC. I need to move to that CNC. You can do that. Okay. These are concepts that you don't have with robots because they're pretty heavy. But a collaborative robot is a very flexible tool. It's like a human arm. Okay. It helps you. And here you can see the biggest one, the UR10, 10 kg payload. 2 people are easily dismantling it, 4 screws, moving it to another location, choosing the program, and off and running. So if you're worried about the cost of deploying a technology like this, understand that you can mitigate the cost among many projects. It's flexible. You can redeploy it even within a shift from location to location. Bottom right talks about democratized automation. You see the lady who's actually programming the cobot with the teach pendant in her hand. She's no robot programmer, I can assure you. She's just the regular worker there at the Chakan plant, excuse me, of this SME, and she's been taught how to handle the cobot. So if you know how to handle a cell phone, you can pretty much handle a collaborative robot. Okay? It doesn't need a robotic expert. And the top right is probably the most important concept, partial automation. So you all know when you do automation, typically 80% of the project can be done for 20% of the cost. That last 20% of the project is really expensive. Maybe you need to put a vision camera, some expensive equipment to get that last 20% of automation. Well, we're saying don't spend that money, don't spend that 80% of money, and encourage the use of partial automation. Have a human being for what he's good at, have a robot for what it's good at. The human and robot can work together in what we call HRC, human robot collaboration. So this enables you to embark on your journey of automation without having to worry about a 2 crore budget. You have 30 lakhs lying around that you can spend on a particular automation project. Get started with a cobot. Okay. So I don't think it should deter anybody. Like I said, it's democratized automation. It's everybody can afford it. And as India climbs up the manufacturing chain, these kind of technologies need to be embraced. So here's a typical example of a CNC machine on the left-hand side being serviced by a robot, industrial robot. And you have a big fence and space used up on the shop floor because it's unsafe, right? A robot is unsafe. We've known it to kill human beings. We're all familiar with the Maruti operator who got pinned next to a cage by a robot. And therefore, you do a collaborative robot, which is on the right-hand side. Notice it's on wheels. I can move it from machine to machine. I don't need to put a fence around it, because if it does impact you by any accident, it doesn't crush you in any way. Every motor size is designed to work safely with a human being. That's what makes it collaborative. So flexibility, where I can move it around, extremely lightweight, easy to program, and no fencing required. So these are some of the major advantages that you can hopefully see immediately. The category of these robots are called power and force limited robots. Okay. This is a picture that in Bajaj Auto, by the way, Mr. Rahul Bajaj had the vision of having 50% of his assembly line should be women. And we have helped him accomplish that, So by putting a cobot up here, you see the engine blocks of the 2-wheelers coming. There's a nut runner. There's I guess a light and a camera that's looking at, okay, these 12 bolts need to be tightened. This lady used to tighten 800 bolts a day manually. It becomes very tough, probably becomes a manual job for a man generally. Today, with the cobot doing all the hard work, it doesn't matter who's working here, right? It could be from your pool of women labor or men. So women empowerment was a big factor in terms of Bajaj's usage of this technology. It also, they told us, it contributes to a clutter-free shop floor. by putting it up there on a small little gantry, I don't use up any floor space. Okay, so clutter-free shop floor was another advantage that they pointed out. So once again, if you're wondering what is the difference between an industrial robot that you see on the left and a collaborative robot that you see on the right, I think this picture says 1,000 words, right? You don't need the fence. You can move it around. It's not a fixed device like on the left-hand side. I can move it from machine to machine, operation to operation. I brought it home, by the way. It's plugged into I don't have three-phase power at home, but it's plugged in and it's working. So these are some of the advantages of a very flexible tool called a collaborative robot. Okay. If you're wondering if it follows all the standards, well, there's an ISO technical specification 15066 that was passed for robots and humans to work together. Because before this standard, all the laws or standards were passed based on how do I keep a human being safe? How do I make sure he doesn't get crushed by that industrial robot? Well, since 2016, only 3-4 years ago now, this technology has now come to the forefront where humans and robots can indeed work together. We have many examples of this, and maybe what I'll request now is, Mr. Manohar, if you don't mind, could you please play the, and I'll transfer control over to you, make you the presenter, and if you could please play the new engineering video at this stage. Thank you.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you.
So while that's coming up, what you're going to see is an MSME using this technology in India.
जमशेदपुर में हम लोग 110 सालों से रह रहे हैं। आज हम लोग जिस फैक्ट्री में बैठे हैं इसका नाम है न्यू इंजीनियरिंग वर्क्स। ये फैक्ट्री हमने 1996 में खरीदी थी। 2 सालों तक मैंने पर्सनली प्लांट में मशीन चला के सीखा कि क्या प्रोडक्शन होता है, कैसे प्रोडक्शन होता है, और हमारी एम्बिशन यही था कि एक दिन हम भी आज के दिन वर्ल्ड क्लास मैन्युफैक्चरर्स बने। कॉमर्शियल व्हीकल का डिमांड बढ़ते जा रहा है, तो हमने सोचा कि क्यों नहीं टेक्नोलॉजी को हम लोग यूज़ करें और मशीन खरीदने के जगह हम लोग रोबो खरीदें, ताकि हमारा ऑटोमेशन भी हो जाएगा, कॉस्ट पर कंपोनेंट भी कम हो जाएगा और हम 24 आवर्स अपनी मशीन को चालू कर सकते हैं। एक दिन पता चला कि यूनिवर्सल रोबो जो कि ह्यूमन फ्रेंडली है, वो भी एक रोबो है जिसको हम लोग यूज़ कर सकते हैं।
It's been 1.5 years since we've been using UR COBOTS, and it's been a great experience for us. I still remember when I saw the cobot for the first time, I told my dad, this is what we need for our components. We have 2 divisions. We have like a small component division and a big component division. And for the small component division, I think there's no better robot in the country than UR COBOTS. When you're an SME, land is extremely valuable for you. Imagine putting these huge robots in your factory which take up so much space. You need to put a fence around. Instead of 6 machines, you will be only be able to put 2 machines or 4 machines at max. But in case of UR robots, it can be fit into the space between 2 machines that you have in your factory. You just put it there, plug and play, and you're good to go.
मैंने ये देखा इस रोबो में, जैसे आप एक स्मार्टफोन यूज करते हैं आराम से, कोई परेशानी आपको नहीं होती है, उस तरह इस रोबो का यूज करेंगे, कोई परेशानी आपको नहीं होगी। ये एकदम स्मार्टफोन की तरह है। प्रोग्राम आपका इजी है और सेटअप भी इजी है, और बहुत लेस टाइम में आप इसको आराम से सेटअप कर सकते हैं।
जब मैंने न्यू इंजीनियरिंग वर्क में ज्वाइन किया तो मुझे इस काम के बारे में कोई आइडिया नहीं था। मैं धीरे धीरे काम को सीखी, सिर्फ जॉब लगाती थी, निकालती थी, बस मुझे यही काम आता था। फिर उसके बाद मैंने यूनिवर्सल रोबो भी सीखी चलाना, और ये मुझे चलाना बहुत अच्छा लगता है।
हम लोग अगर आज मान लीजिए रोबोट में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो मैं आदमी को बेकार नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं उन लोगों से और अच्छा काम कर रहा हूँ, जैसे क्वालिटी, CMM, इंस्पेक्शन, उनको एजुकेट करना, इससे अच्छे काम में करना। आई कैन एक्सप्लोर मोर बिजनेस। करीब 40% हमारा ग्रोथ है। सपोज देर आर कंपोनेंट्स वर इन लैक्स, सो हमको बहुत सोचना पड़ता था कि हम 24 घंटा कैसे चलाएं, तो वो मैं चला पा रहा हूँ। तो ये हमारे लिए वाइबल भी है और प्रोडक्टिविटी भी हमारे हो रही है।
They're actually cobots, collaborative robots as you call them, which work side by side with my workforce on the shop floor.
हमारे जमशेदपुर में कम से कम भी 1000 SMEs फैक्ट्रीज हैं और मैं हर लोगों को जो कि इस इंडस्ट्री में हैं, मैं उनको एक ही रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि सब रोबो लगाएं। रोबो लगाने के लिए सिर्फ कॉस्ट से डरे नहीं, हर आदमी को चाहिए कि वो इसका कंपैरेटिव कॉस्ट का कैलकुलेशन करे कि मैं क्या इन्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ और मुझे इसका क्या रिटर्न है। और मैं अपने यहाँ देखा हूँ कि जो इन्वेस्टमेंट हम करते हैं उसका ROI बहुत अच्छा है। एक रोबो लगाने के बाद हमने 5 रोबो और लगाए और फ्यूचर में भी हम और लगाने की सोच रहे हैं। आप 10 अच्छे कंपोनेंट बना सकते हैं, 100 अच्छे कंपोनेंट्स बना सकते हैं, लेकिन आपको हजारों में और लाखों में अगर बनाना होगा तो बिना ऑटोमेशन और टेक्नोलॉजी के संभव नहीं है।
Okay, so if you could pass control back to me, Mr. Manoj. So I hope you got a good idea of the capability of COBOTS there. It basically showed an MSME, rather an SME, using the technology quite effectively. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen now. This picture that you're looking at is actually in Ahmedabad, where a similar story like New Engineering, they put one of these. They wanted to run manless in the night shift. They had problems, women workers would not come at night shift, and after 10 p.m., nothing was happening. So these guys, they just put an input buffer, which they fill up before they leave. The robot keeps loading the CNC machine automatically all through the night. In the morning, they come and the output buffer is all full. Okay, so completely manless operation. So yes, while we talk about robot-human collaboration, this can run in complete automated mode also, if you so desire. Okay, so one of the nice things about this, it's one of the 50 disruptive technologies of the era we're in. You're all heard of 5G and blockchain and AI and deep learning and all these kind of things. But in the bottom left corner in advanced manufacturing, and I hope we're all manufacturers attending today, you're looking to do future-proof your factories coming out of COVID. Well, you're looking at disruptive technologies that are going to keep you competitive in the years going forward. And collaborative robots is one of the top 50 in such disruptive technologies. Okay, so you can't go wrong in future-proofing your factories. It's also part of Industry 4.0. Now, we have a lot of MSME clients that are now telling us there's a lot of pressure. For example, one of the MSME clients we have deals with Bosch. Bosch is a big German customer, and they insist on their suppliers to be Industry 4.0 compliant. So they say the next time we do an inspection, if you guys don't have any Industry 4.0, we may take the order somewhere else. Well, here's a way for you to stay competitive. Industry 4.0 is a massive definition. There's 26 different things that McKinsey talks about in terms of what human-robot collaboration is. But one of those 26 is something called human-robot collaboration. So human-robot collaboration is one of the building blocks towards Industry 4.0. So when you take a cobot and you invest, let's say, anywhere from 16 to 25 lakhs in putting one collaborative robot in your plant, you have now begun your journey towards Industry 4.0 because this device is completely Industry 4.0 compliant. It can talk to various smart devices that you may have. Okay. So moving forward, you also see out here is the man-machine. So this is the assembly line of the future, wherein a human being and a robot, and a human being and a robot, automatic 6-foot distancing between the people on the assembly line. And not just that, MIT has done a study which shows that when you have humans and robots working together, you have 85% reduction in a worker's idle time, 85% reduction in the worker's idle time. Okay, so this is pretty significant, which allows us to bring efficiencies. As you are trying to be more efficient now, coming out of COVID, understand that having a human and a robot work together, and shown by an MIT study, not by a marketing study from our company, is an MIT study that shows that you can have 85% reduction in idle time and the associated improvement in productivity and throughput. Okay, that's just one of the benefits. You have a lot of other benefits like the quality of your product going up dramatically. It plugs into a single phase power outlet like I shown right here behind in at my home. It's very easy to program. It's got a teach pendant, and this teach pendant very easily we can show any operator to program. I can actually show this to you today on how to program a cobot. Every axis will move plus or minus 360. This is unprecedented in the world of robotics. When you look at robots, typically, let's say the base joint may move like this from here to here, about 270 degrees. We're talking plus or minus 360, which is 720 degrees. Okay, every joint can move. What's the benefit for you? Benefit is it can operate in extremely confined spaces. Yeah, so we use, in an MSME, space is huge, right? It's very important that we conserve as much space as possible. You can move it from location to location. You can mount it up there like Bajaj has done, and it consumes very little power. The largest one we have, a UR10, 10 kg, actually UR16, will probably consume about 350 watts. Okay, typical UR5 that most people use on CNC machines, a 5 kg payload, will only consume 150 watts, like your light bulb in your office. 150 watts is all is all it consumes. So extremely efficient in terms of energy usage too. But don't let all this simplicity fool you. There's a lot of technology that's gone in to give you this capability. In fact, there are 65 patents built into the product in robot safety, construction, trajectory control, etc. Okay, no less than 65. And we have over 45,000 deployed in the globe today. So it's not like you'll be the guinea pig trying this out. We have many installations in India also, like this picture will show. These are small SMEs around the country, Craft and Technique. They make products that mostly they export. They're for aircraft parts and those kind of things. But New Engineering Works, the middle one on the top, I think you heard the story. They're making small components for commercial vehicles, Tata. Bottom left, Shruti Engineers. This is a small, I think they only have 10 machines and about 20, or rather the other way around. Yeah, 20 people and 10 machines. And they put a cobot to load and unload to make it easier for the operators, to improve the precision of the operation. We have a customer in Gurgaon like this, who got tired of the quality when he had a painter doing the painting application. You had to do 8 coats of paint, and after 6 hours of work, maybe they put 8 coats or they do 6 coats. Either way, it will be rejected when the etching goes on. He had a lot of problems with quality. When you put a robot, you tell it to do it 8 times, it's going to do it 8 times, from part number 1 to part number 1 million. Okay, so quality just goes up through the roof. And ergonomics, this one bottom right is a dal manufacturer in Chennai. And this lady used to carry these dal packets and put them in a sack one by one as they came off the assembly line. Well, now the cobot picks up the dal packets, puts them in a sack. All she has to do is drag the sack out, put a new sack in, every so many minutes. So great stories on SMEs using it. I also want to share 2 major concepts of collaborative robots. One is called partial automation. So I've already explained this, where you don't need to spend the money, the big money, let's say 2 crores of rupees, to do complete automation. Like this operation you're seeing, you may say, why is the man there? Couldn't we have automated that? Couldn't we have had something make the box? Notice the little cardboard box is lying at the back, and you could have put a conveyor that it's coming automatically. Sure, but then your cost would have gone up. So we're saying, no problem, you've got 25 lakhs to start with, put 25 lakhs in, put a UR5 in, put some simple collation process, have the human being there, and I've brought a cobot into my factory. Okay, I'm getting the benefits of a cobot, of Industry 4.0, of one of the top 50 technologies, right? And I'm getting my people used to working with a cobot, human and robot working together, heavy lifting being done by the cobot. Maybe as this progresses, I can put another cobot in. Yeah, so this supports the concept of partial automation. Okay, so you can get started small. And on the right-hand side, I love this concept of flexible automation. So this is in a cosmetic company. Notice there are 2 robots on this trolley. One is a UR5, 5 kg, and one is a UR3. And they happen to have about 12 presses. They make these cosmetics like powder puffs and lipsticks and all that kind of stuff, a company called Cody. So instead of buying 12 times 2, 24 robots for their 12 presses, they actually bought only 4 robots, okay? And they put 2 on a cart and another 2 on another cart. So depending on which press has to be serviced that particular day, they drag that particular cart to that press, plug it, put a locating pin so that you have the exact same position every time, and plug it into single phase power and choose the right program and off and running. All right. So this is how flexible automation allows you to diffuse the cost of your project among multiple things that you need to get done. Okay. So maybe you have a first shift operation that's very different from a second shift. The cobot can be redeployed within that shift itself to do different things for you. So hopefully this is clear that you can do partial automation and you can do flexible automation with a cobot. There's one testimony I just thought I'd share with you. Dell, a customer in Chennai, they make servers and laptops and all these things, as you know. So this is what the plant manager has to say. Our first cobot installed 3 years ago is on a very high flow, line with 3 to 4 units every minute. This means the single cobot has gone through over 1 million production cycles till date with 0 downtime. Reliability is one of the biggest positives. So this is Mr. Navneet Kejriwal, the head of manufacturing. That's his comment, on his experience with deploying cobots. In fact, he's a hero in Dell now because they have 10 plants around the globe. He was the first to put a cobot. Today, all 10 plants have cobots after they've seen what the Chennai plant has done. Very proud moment for us in India, where we're showing the other plants what can be done. So what can be done with cobots? Well, a lot of things. And I'm going to ask Mr. Manohar now to start getting ready with the second poll. But take a look at this slide. What can I do with collaborative robots? I can do lab analysis. Today in the COVID era, a lot of people are looking at how can I use this for lab work, as I'm doing testing. Machine tending. Many of you are SMEs and you probably have CNCs and VMCs and you're saying, I've got problems with labor, getting skilled labor to handle this, or maybe because of COVID, I'm running at 50% capacity. Maybe I need some tool to help me, like a cobot like this. So machine tending is probably 50% of our deployment of over 45,000 robots is probably in machine tending. Assembly, where I need to put parts together. This little device called the Alexa that you have at home. You talk to it and say, Alexa, play so-and-so music track for me. That assembly has been done completely by cobots. Pick and place. From a conveyor, I'm taking something and putting it somewhere else, very common application. Quality inspection. I put a camera at the end of the cobot and, BMW, for example, is using it to measure the distance. If you look at a BMW car, the distance, the gap, as they call it, is exactly the same. Whether you look at the bonnet, whether you look at the trunk, whether you look at the doors, the gap is always the same. So they're using cobots with a laser to actually inspect the gap. And if the gap is not the same, it goes for rework, Screwdriving. We just had a customer in China called Hasco. They do, parts for automotive. They're tier 1 automotive supplier. They bought 300 robots from us just last week. What did they buy it for? For screwdriving. So they have all these headlamps, headlamps, and you have to do screwdriving, all manual work, screwdriving. I have tons of people, maybe 15 operators times 3 shifts, all can be done easily with a cobot. Put a screwdriver tool in its hand, and it can do what needs to be done. Okay, 300 robots were sold just last week for that, cobots rather. Injection molding machines, gluing and dispensing. I actually want to take dispensing and dispense some sealant all along a certain profile from a CAD drawing. And a very common application, packaging and palleting, which I'm going to show you. Mr. Manohar, over to you for running the poll.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sending it to you. Yeah.
Okay, we'll have the second poll of the day across. So you are now seeing the poll in progress. We request you to vote for it. It talks about what applications are you thinking or planning of automating your shop floor with cobots? Assembly operations, the most common pick and place operations, packaging and palletizing, quality inspection, and any other applications. So let's wait. I'm just waiting another 10-15 minutes for the a typical trend to pick up, because there's a very close fight between two applications. Okay, I close it now. I share it. So as you can see here, pick and place has almost 39% of operations. I think that indicates to Pradeep what is the most common applications of robots can be used. 28% in assembly operations, 11% in packaging or palletizing, and of course 30% is others across. Thank you very much. It's over to Pradeep.
Okay, thank you, Manoj. That was a very insightful poll. So pick and place, I would think machine tending is probably quite important. And I'm going to share my screen again now. And okay, so some of the benefits you are getting by using a cobot, let's say pick and place was the major application that you mentioned, is increased capacity. So your throughput can definitely go up. We've also seen a dramatic improvement in quality. In many cases, our customers are telling us, I've had 0 quality defects, 0, once it's gone, once the cobot was involved in the manufacturing. Because we all know that human beings, while we're extremely good and extremely smart, after 6 hours of repetitive work, we get tired and we make mistakes, right? Sometimes deliberately, sometimes not deliberately, but quality does suffer, and it's the owner of the company that suffers because of that, right? And we've seen cobots minimize waste, and all these, I'll let you read these, some of the benefits. Okay, it's quite obvious, but these are the benefits that our customers have told us about. This is just an ROI calculation of the new engineering works, the SME. You know, he took a 30 lakhs loan, and had he used labor for 3 machines, 3 shifts, he would have paid 10 lakhs 80 per year 1, and then a 10% escalation in year 2, year 3. But because he borrowed 30 lakhs from the bank, he was paying interest of about 15%, and he had a depreciation of 15%. So in year 1 itself, he had a positive cash flow. Had he had labor, he would have paid 10.8 lakhs. If he had just the cobot, his costs were 9 lakhs. So even from year 1, he had a positive cash flow. All right. And in fact, he paid off the entire 30 lakhs within 2.5 years. In his case, after that, he's been printing money essentially. In fact, this guy, within a month, I got a call from him after we put the first robot in, and he said, boss, I need you to come urgently and put 5 more in. We suddenly realized that we are leaving money on the table. I need to put a total of 6 robots. My bank has sanctioned this loan. Please come and do 6 more. So that was a great story for us, which is why we have made a video of it. Some of your questions may be about the robot itself. Notice that we talk about a UR3, which is a 3 kilogram payload, which basically means I can carry, let's take a UR10. Okay, a UR10 can carry 10 kilograms at this point. Okay, so and about 200 mm offset from that flange also. So 10 kilograms means your end of arm tooling and the payload. You know, so probably you can lift about 8.5 to 9 kg payload with, let's say, a 1 kg end of arm tooling. All right. Now, yes, we can go up to 16 kilograms. In the case of the 10 kg payload, we can go up to 1.3 meters is the reach, the working radius, which means the diameter is 2.6 millimeters, 2.6 meters, sorry. Okay. Each one of these, and by the way, why is the E? E is the latest version, just like your cars, you know, you have a BMW 3 and a 5 and a 7, let's say, same way. We've got our 5th generation of product, which is our most modern product with the best functionality, touch sensitivity at the end. It's called the E series. We also have just the UR3, just the UR5, and just the UR10 without the E. We've been selling that for the last 10 years. It's still very popular in India. Obviously, the cost is much less than the E series. But if you're into R&D and you're looking at some of the more higher end applications, you may want to look at the E series. Okay. Here's an example, quick quiz question. What's common in all these? I know you can't answer because you're muted, but I think you see that there's a woman in every picture, right? I already talked about this, women empowerment. I think it's going to become pretty major. Even the World Trade Organization had made a comment that India is only using about 26% of women in the manufacturing sector. I can tell you for sure that some of my customers, Bajaj is 50%. This one top right, Autolab has 90% women, 90%. Can you believe that? So I think we're contributing a little bit to this, where women empowerment. I think it will contribute to all manufacturers because you now have a larger pool of labor to choose from, especially nowadays when it's tough to find labor. Okay. It can be used in many applications. Like I said, we have used cobots in neurosurgery. We have used it in bartending. We've used it in physiotherapy. We've used it in kitchens. In Bombay, for example, there is a cloud kitchen, and they were having problems with consistency of the dough. How do I make the pizza dough consistent? First shift makes it different. Second shift makes it different. Well, they took a cobot for that to ensure that the consistency was the same. So very ingenious applications. I would recommend the Bajaj example I would give you is they bought one robot, I think in 2012, and the very next year they bought 23 robots. Why was that? Because they bought it for their R&D center, and they suddenly realized, hey, this is so easy. I can make it to do dispensing. I can make it do my decal application, on my petrol tank to put that sticker. I can use it for dispensing the sealant. I can use it for welding. I can use it for picking and placing, all that stuff. So typically an R&D group, if they get their hands on something like this, your application better than anybody else. You'll be able to figure out many uses of this tool. Once again, I call it a tool, not a robot. It's really a very functional tool that you can make it do exactly what you want it to do. Okay. I love this one because it shows it's a German company, Mercedes-Benz, as you know. You see Mr. Dieter Jetzke, who is the ex-CEO. He had come to Bangalore. He's standing in front of his R&D group. Look at the number of R&D engineers he has in Bangalore. And on the right-hand side, again, you see him sitting in front of 4 of our robots, which are simulating a Mercedes-Benz car. You hit one button and it becomes an S-Class. You hit another button, it simulates where the mirrors of all the vehicles are. Because this particular R&D group, they do the automatic self-parking software for the car. So if I have an S-Class, how do I hit one button and have the car park between 2 pillars safely without hitting anything, right? So the robot will help you do that. The software is written here in Bangalore, and then it is sent to Germany for installation on the cars. By the way, I would never have been able to show you this slide because we have signed an NDA for this. But Mr. Zetske himself has gone to LinkedIn, onto his own LinkedIn, and put this online. So now I can share it. The NDA, nothing to do with the NDA. It's just what he has shared. Okay. Some questions we have got. Hey, these things look very lightweight. Do they last for a long time? Well, we're a 10-year-old company. 10 years ago, this customer, you notice the robot looks a little different. Obviously, 10 years ago, our generation 1 looked a little different. Today, he is still running his machine with the same robot he bought 10 years ago. Yes, it's in Denmark, but 10 years later, the robot is still producing parts for him. Okay. So do we have much more history? No, unfortunately, we're only a 10-year-old company, but we have some good reliability on these machines, and you treat them well. In other words, you clean them a little bit. There's no maintenance involved. There's a fan in the control box. Make sure it's not clogged with dust. Some basic things like that. It will give you extremely good service. This is a little technical. I don't know whether you want to get to this level, but anyway, if you're interested, I'm sure you'll call us and we'll talk a little bit more detail about the E-Series, which is our flagship product. I think the main thing being robots generally don't have the sense of touch, right? We have now taken a force torque sensor and put it right here, which basically means, now, for example, I've just got a customer recently in Delhi who's got a gear and he's got a spline, and he wants to align the gear wheels with the spline and then push the two together. Okay. Now that requires a little bit of forcing and seeing, oh, it didn't work, then move it, then force it, right? A force torque sensor is the ideal thing for such kind of applications. Just like a human being has a sense of touch, the force torque sensor gives the cobot a sense of touch. Okay. Very important here is the UR Plus. Now, we're a company, we're a small company. We cannot do everything that our customers require us to do. So we have created a platform called UR Plus, right? So top left, if you want to pick up a part and you want to gauge it, I've got a CNC machine and I want to pick up the part and I want to gauge the outer diameter and then place it on a reject tray or on a proper tray, you know. This little device can do that. Is that from Universal Robots? No, it's from a third-party supplier who took our software. Okay, he has developed his intelligence, like Shunk has done down here with their 2-jaw gripper, and he has created a tool for you to use. Okay, that is called UR Plus. And all the software to configure this will show up on my teach pendant. That's how we certify them that it works with UR. So if you teach your operator to use our teach pendant, you are now teaching him how to use a third-party device such that a gauging system or 200 different devices, 2D cameras, 3D cameras, 2-jaw gripper, 3-jaw grippers, sometimes not even electronics. You know, some people say, hey, my operator takes the teach pendant and drops it on the floor and he cracks it. So, well, okay, there's somebody who's produced a nice little jacket or a shield for it, you know. Things like that. So all these things that we don't do as a robot company, we want to be the best platform for you to use. And then we expose it to third-party vendors to give you the third-party things that they're experts at. Okay. So haptic gloves, there's so many things, you know, software to do remote monitoring of the robot. All that is available of what we call UR Plus. Okay. And it's coming up to an hour, so I'll just take a few more minutes. That is, we have, if this is interesting to you, you found this kind of interesting, we have something called an academy, right? UR Academy, which in 87 minutes, you can become a programmer. Just go to our website, Universal Robots, click on education, and there are 9 modules you can go through, free of cost. Learn about, you know, how to create a program, how do I attach an external device, how do I set safety settings for my operator, and within a few hours, you will learn how to do this. Okay. I will now ask Mr. Manohar to play one video. We'll skip over the palletizing video because there was not too much interest in palletizing, but request you to play video number 3 right now, Mr. Manohar. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep.
Your car contains a lot of electronics. It is quite possible that some of these components were manufactured by COBOTS and Siegendorf. Melix is the largest service provider for electronics development and manufacturing in Austria. We are the market leader in products such as control units for intelligent all-wheel drives. Besides original equipment manufacturers, Melix customers are mainly automotive suppliers, with Melix being their single source provider of the entire value chain, from development, validation, industrialization, production and logistics. Melix offers zero defect quality and 100% delivery reliability at competitive prices. This can be guaranteed only by automating as cost efficiently as possible. That's why we use a cobot from Universal Robots here for packaging small electronic components. Cobots are cost efficient, they are easy to use, and we can realize projects directly with our own engineers. In addition, we relieve our employees of monotonous tasks. The UR5 handles packaging tasks. Our primary goal here was to meet the cycle time. The target is to pack each PCB module in 3 to 4 seconds. With support from the Fraunhofer Institute, we were able to realize this project successfully. The cobot is equipped with a gripper specifically developed for this application. After depanelization, The employee places the PCBs in the robot's working area. The robot then scans the PCBs, picks them with the flow gripper and places them in a tray. Once the tray is fully loaded, the robot grabs it with the vacuum gripper and places it in a box. As soon as a box is fully loaded, the robot closes it and makes it ready for delivery. We were able to transfer the monotonous packaging work from the employee to the UR. This enables us to use our employees in more profitable ways elsewhere. The bottom line is a 25% increase in productivity in this manufacturing cell. The cobot moves slower in the areas it shares with humans. We also cushion the gripper tips so the employee can work absolutely safely next to the robot. To me, this project proves that it is possible to realize really short cycle times and high volumes with collaborative applications. The project was very successful. The system runs reliably in production, and we were able to achieve a clear competitive advantage. We package 2 million products per year more cost efficiently than before. Due to the success of this first implementation, we will use cobots again for our next automation projects. After being packaged by the UR cobots, the circuit boards find their way into cars all over the world.
Thank you. That was good. And yeah, show my screen. Okay. Hopefully you can see the screen again. And so that was UR Academy. And just a couple of things about the company. Universal Robots is one of the smartest companies, 50 smartest companies by MIT Technology, along with people like Tesla and IBM and Apple and Microsoft. So very proud to see this. You will not see the standard robot companies here like a KUKA or a Fanuc or anything like that, because this is really technology that's one of the 50 disruptive technologies, right? Collaborative robots. So, so do look at this technology seriously, and it has made heroes of many people. You know, in India. I'll give you an example. On the left side, Sandvik decided to put some cobots in, and their person was immediately awarded something from their Asia Pacific head as a appreciation. The middle one is Mahindra. They have a nice video on the Igatpuri factory, green factory, and their plant manager, Mr. Deshmukh, right here. He talks about collaborative robots and how much it has done for them in their factory, in their manufacturing efforts. You know, so many people here is another one in Bosch. It has come up in Deutsche Welt. Actually, it was a Hindi Manthan program in Deutsche Welt, wherein the cobots were portrayed by Bosch. You know, they themselves have shown their video, and Mr. Rajendra Basvaraju, in this case, is talking about how much cobots have helped their manufacturing operations and Industry 4.0. This whole segment was on Industry 4.0. So I think anybody who has embraced this technology, that we worked with us on this, has really had dynamic growth within their organization using this technology. Since this is a German event, you can see Angela Merkel in the bottom left with one of our cobots at being shown what the cobot can do. Even Xi Jinping on the top left, and Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan when he was Commerce Minister. Bottom right is the Princess of Denmark, with the Ambassador of Denmark being served wine. So these are just to show that these are very high. People really appreciate what this can do for a country, not just from an SME perspective, but the fact that this is a tool that, if embraced by the right people, can thoroughly improve their productivity, their quality. Okay, and it's been accepted at the highest levels, as you can see. So, if there's anything I can ask you to take back from this seminar, it's one thing, and that is, don't think of it as a robot. A cobot is just the next part of your toolbox. Okay, so just like you have a wrench and a hammer and a screwdriver that you move from location to location as and when you need it, they say that the operator of the future, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the road, you're going to give him a cobot, because with that cobot, he can do dispensing, he can do pick and place, he can do machine tending, he can do so many different applications, inspection, etc. Okay, so to get started, I think the important thing is get this in your hands of somebody smart in your company. your R&D team, your project engineers, you will be surprised as to the number of applications they will find for a cobot within your plant. Okay. So with that, I will turn it back to Mr. Rajesh Nath to possibly, or to Mr. Manohar actually, to get some questions going.
Yeah, thank you, Pradeep, for the excellent presentation and for highlighting how collaborative robots can help and support the manufacturing industry, especially the MSME, the SME segments. I would also like to thank all our members and industry friends who have participated in huge numbers today. I think I'm sure they would have found the presentation quite useful and informative. And Pradeep, in fact, a lot of questions have come up. So we will try to take a few questions, at least a few important ones, Pradeep.
Yes, certainly.
I think yes, can we start with the questions, Pradeep? Are you okay?
Please, yes. Yeah. I'm ready, yes.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting question, Pradeep. In times of COVID, where the demand is fluctuating, can the collaborative robo undertake different nature of work or jobs for maximum utilization?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. And I think that's probably one of its biggest strengths, Mr. Nath, is the fact that, since it's so lightweight and redeployable, right? So I'll give you some examples where people have actually taken these cobots on rent. There are organizations that rent these cobots. And if I have certain absenteeism on a certain day, right? A very critical machine, that operator is called in sick or COVID or something, whatever it is, right? Diwali, they didn't come back for 2 weeks. Well, this particular rental robot is taken to that CNC station and the program is chosen and it is starting to manufacture, right? There's two things that happen here. Number one, you're not dependent on your production, on that one operator who may be sitting on your head. He's a very important operator, so he knows that he's controlling the shots. You're also sending a message that, hey, you guys, I need labor, but if you don't come, I have some alternative, But also it very importantly is many times you have these very, very small order sizes today, nobody's manufacturing tens of thousands of products. Everybody's doing small batches, right? So flexibility and redeployability is very important. And that is one of the biggest strengths. So whoever asked that question, I think they really understood the major benefit of a cobot.
Right. Thank you, Pradeep. Pradeep, then there are quite a few questions which have come actually comparing the cobots and the robos. So I'll take it all together. There are three questions. Maybe I'll take it together. What kind of movement accuracy do cobots have in comparison to robos? That's the first one. Then what are the operational speed differences between a robo and cobo? And the third one is, what is the cost difference between a cobo and a robo?
Great. Yeah. So I think it's a very, very good question. And let me just start off by a cobot is actually made to do what a man does. Okay, so typically when it works alongside a man, we're talking about it should be able to do approximately the same things that a man does, the same speed, right? So if you just, I come from the PLC world, so having worked for Rockwell before, it's like comparing the scan time of one processor versus another. As an end user, does it really matter to you if the scan time is faster or no, if it's doing your job? That's the important thing, right? So when we talk about accuracies, right? The CB3 robot, the third generation of robot that we have, a cobot, has 100 micron accuracy. If that is not sufficient, the new series, the E series, the fifth generation, can go up to 30 microns, which is comparable to most industrial robots, So yes, the accuracy is available at different price points. The speed, the typical speed of a cobot is 1 meter per second. Although we can go faster, right? We can go up to 3 meters per second. It's not recommended. We would recommend up to 1 meter per second. There are a lot of tricks that have to be done in programming. So I think what's most important is, what is the cycle time you're looking for? If I'm loading a machine, let's say it's a leak testing machine. Do I need that to be done in 28 seconds? Do I need it to be done in 33 seconds, right? At that point, it doesn't matter what hardware is doing it. If I can meet your cycle time, you need just enough hardware to meet that cycle time, right? So I think it's important to realize many of these benefits that we have, okay, it comes at a cost. One of the costs is it's not blazing lightning speed. That's not what a cobot is meant to do, right? In fact, when you do that very high speed, then I need to put a fence around it to protect my operator, right? So there's always a trade-off, but if it is meeting your cycle time, that doesn't become an issue, right? So it's important to realize what we're trying to accomplish with that job.
Right. Would you also like to say something about the cost difference, Pradeep?
Cost difference, yeah, good. I'm glad you mentioned that. When you look at a collaborative robot, and typically you need a collaborative robot and end effector, and you're off and running. Okay? With an industrial robot, there's a lot. You can just look at the cost of the robot. It may be less, but then I have to put a fence around it, right? I have to put three-phase power. If you look at a typical industrial robot, maybe it'll weigh 150 kilograms. I need a fork truck to bring it into my plant. If I need to move it from this side to that side, it's a 3-week shutdown, as opposed to within a shift, right? So if you look at the power consumption of an industrial robot, it is in watts, in kilowatts, not in watts that we talked about in collaborative robots. So if you do a fair analysis of the running cost of a robot, the lifetime cost of an industrial robot or a collaborative robot, we have many studies to show that it is dramatically lower in a collaborative robot.
Then Pradeep, there's a question, what are the typical maintenance costs for cobots?
Okay, so this may be a question that came from an industrial robot user. So typically in an industrial robot, you would have an AMC, right? You have to pay an annual maintenance contract every year, and the man comes from whichever company it is. He will change the grease of the gearbox, and you have to pay for the grease and you have to pay for his time, right? That's what the AMC is, because every 6 months you have to do something with an industrial robot. A collaborative robot, on the other hand, is completely sealed. There is no maintenance involved. There is no calibration involved. There is no battery change involved. Is there any maintenance? Yes, it's maintenance that you need to do as an end user. Exactly what you do with your car. You wouldn't drive your car around with a bunch of dirt on it, right? So when we have this collaborative robot, here's the box that comes with it. Okay, it's really the PLC, which has the connection to the Siemens and if you look on the side here, you can see a fan, right? So if this fan gets clogged and you don't clean it, you're just hurting inside, right? It's not allowing it to breathe. So yes, if you call that maintenance, which is basic wipe down, that is the maintenance you need to do. Sometimes on the arm of the robot, you may have a lot of grease accumulating, cleaning that down. The mounting, the bolts, we sometimes see bolts haven't been tightened in years, so it gets loose, the entire robot. So that's the maintenance that's required, which I say is just housekeeping, not maintenance.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep. Then Pradeep, you had mentioned about the UR Academy. So the question is this academy also active in India or is it primarily in Europe?
Okay, that's a good question. It's online, so it's available all through the world. I think we have 90 countries using it today. So it's an online academy. It's free of cost. By the way, I didn't even talk about, in case you're a little bit more advanced than that and you want to use simulation software, the software that's programming this, it's again available for free. You can download it on your computer, program. So you just go to our website and download the simulation software. Now, if you need classroom training, certainly we provide that too. Not now in the COVID era, but when things are a little better and you can come back, certainly we do classroom training also.
This is from a SME. He specifically mentioned, and he's mentioned that he was quite impressed with the cobot and your presentation, Pradeep. Now he's saying that can UR also participate in complete turnkey project, because he says if he has to implement the cobot, he has other things also to implement automation steps. So can UR do the complete automation or the turnkey automation?
That's a very good question. And yes, we are a small company. So the way we go to market is we have about 15 partners around the country. So the new engineering video that you saw, right? One of our distributors took the robot, he put it in there. the SME liked him so much, he's hired him to do an automation assessment of his entire plant. So the only partners we have are people who are very creditworthy, who have got 30, 40 years experience in automation, and we have signed them up. COBOTS is just one part of their portfolio. Our distributors, some are experts in vision, some are experts in machine tending, some are experts in the electronics segments for making cell phones. So call us and we will put you in touch with who we believe is the right partner for your particular application.
Right. So that means you would be able to help them further also.
100%, absolutely. The robot by itself, the cobot, doesn't do anything. It has to be engineered in their operation. Yes.
Right. Then Pradeep, you had mentioned that the maximum payload capacity is 15 kilos. Now the question is there any development going on to increase the payload capacity? Is it expected that in the future about 30 or 35 kilos payload can be attained or can be handled by the cobot?
Sure. Actually, till last year, it was only 10 kilograms because you understand that collaborative robots are safe to work with humans, right? So the heavier the load becomes, let's say we drop it on somebody's head, how safe is it going to be, right? So safety has been the driving factor of collaborative robot design. Last year, we introduced a 16 kg cobot, which is, are we going to look at bigger? Then the safety aspects do come into play. However, today, remember I showed you UR Plus, wherein partners can do things with us. So there is a company called COBOLIFT who allows you to carry 30 kilograms, up to 30. So if I got a 30 kilogram bag with a vacuum, he uses a vacuum system, and our cobot does the steering in order to palletize. So the answer is actually we can go up to 30 kilograms today with a subsidiary part called a COBOLIFT.
Okay, very interesting. Yes. And in fact, related to safety also, Pradeep, the question is, what is the force that the cobot applies, and what is the maximum force a cobot can apply on humans?
Okay, so if you notice that this robot is running right now, and if while it's running, let's say that I come in contact with it, it stopped, right? So if, let's say my shoulder came into contact with it, it stopped, and I think you can see this. It says protective stop. So I now hit the switch, continue, and I hit this one button, and it starts. The robot now starts from exactly where it left off, right? So it's called a protective stop. Now, I can set different force limits for the protective stop. I can set it as low as 50 newtons. That means I can basically touches me a little bit and it stops. But that's not good for me because I'm compromising the speed of my production, right? So I can set it from 50 newtons up to 250 newtons, right? So there's always a balance between speed and safety, right? And you have the complete control on how to set that. Okay.
Okay. Right. Thank you. This is a question from Festo, Pradeep. Cobots have a limitation of covering a certain work area only surrounding it. They do require to travel also. How do you see the future of these cobots working with the 7th axis?
Great question. So I'm sorry I didn't show it, but when I showed UR Plus, many people have developed 7th axis for UR. So Festo is one, ULX is one. There's a company called Vestion. So you have gantries, 7th axis. So I have a video where, for example, that shows these Fanuc Robo, CNC machines, a whole line of about 16 of them, 8 on this side and 8 on that side, and one cobot on a track, which is servicing 16 machines. Yeah, that can be done. So 7th axis is very common. The third thing is AGVs. Many times now, in fact, just last week, we sold one to a company in Delhi who's doing some CSR work for the All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And they're taking our cobot and putting it on an AGV, which is running around the hospital doing various things of dispensing pills and stuff like that. So that's excuse me, another very common way of moving a cobot around is on an AGV.
Right. And then there was another interesting question is, can you offer a butler robo or a application in the hospitality to serve in a 5-star hotel, especially now presently during the COVID pandemic?
100%. Yes, we can. In fact, if you go to Singapore sometime, please go and visit a hotel called M Social. It's not a 5-star, but it's a nice hotel. You got a breakfast buffet, and they've eliminated the chef from there, so you don't have to breathe what the chef is breathing. You choose omelette or you choose sunny side up. The cobot picks up different tools, makes the egg for you, and then hands it to you on a platter. So so this is very common in 5-star. We actually had a celebrity chef called I forgot his name. Anyway, sorry, but he's an English guy, and we gave him some haptic gloves, and the motions of his to make his lasagna or whatever he was doing was captured and fed to the cobot, and then the cobot replicated the action of the celebrity chef. So imagine you're driving home one day on your iPhone, you say, I want lasagna. You click that, and by the time you come home, it's made. So these are not futuristic. We're actually doing it today, but it's a little expensive from a domestic standpoint. It'll be a little bit more on a 5-star level, and so it is happening. The Mandarin Hotel placed an order for about 10 of these omelette making machines in Singapore just recently.
Okay, interesting. This is a question from the automotive sector. Can cobots do soldering jobs in the automotive manufacturing?
Did I hear soldering?
Yeah.
Answer is yes. Soldering we can do. In fact, you may have seen it on that Melex video, maybe not. But whoever asked that question, just send us an email. We'll send you several soldering type applications. Answer is yes, it can be done.
Okay, perfect. And perhaps the last question, what we can take for today, Pradeep, is collaborative robots are helping in increasing participation of women in the workforce, as you mentioned, Pradeep. Now, what sort of training is required? Can anyone, or do they require any specific training or certain number of hours or certain course they have to do before they can start operating it? Because we heard in your video also the young lady mentioning that she enjoys working with the cobot.
Right. That's a very good question. I'd like to give you the example of Orolab. Orolab is part of the Arvind Eye Hospital. They make these intraocular lenses for glaucoma and stuff like that, which go in your eye. In fact, Abdul Kalam was admitted there once. I think he just wanted to see how they work. I'm very proud to say that these girls, and I'd say girls, not even women, they're 18 to 20 years old, right from high school. They come and work at Orolab. They are not robot programs. They're basically 10th standard girls. You give this in their hand, and if you ask the supervisor what was one of the biggest benefits, they said, these girls are young, they'll work for a few months and then they get married, and the next bunch of girls come and I have to train them. With a cobot, I don't need to do any training. All they're doing is they're filling the input tray. These are the parts, you take it from here, fill it for the robot. The robot will come and load it on the CNC. That was the hard part, loading it on the CNC. The cobot is doing that. The generally simple stuff of loading the input tray with all these raw material and taking the output tray and giving it to packaging, that's easy, right? So that's what they do. And the beauty is that you don't need to train. New person comes in, they put them on the robot. Now, yes, to train the robot, you need a little skill. I need to tell it, go to this point, go to that point. Typically, within 2 days, we can train an operator, a reasonably smart operator, to do this. Obviously, if you have an engineer who needs to do programming, we have higher level programming. For example, IIT Kanpur wanted to do everything in Python script. They said, we don't want your teach pendant. We want to do everything in high level programming. That also is possible, right? So you can do everything in scripting.
Right. So thank you, Pradeep. I think we've taken most of the important questions. Let me just conclude, friends, that as the world continues to stop the COVID-19 outbreak, it has become clear that robots and automation technologies will be needed as humans and robots work together. Automation is an essential key for organizations to overcome the pandemic crisis. Its enhanced capabilities help organizations to occupy a place of sustainable prominence, reduce costs, and boost their growth amidst the competitive world. Business that prioritizes investing in automation technologies, for example, in collaborative robots, will excel now and stand stronger in the face of future disruptions. So friends, let us be prepared and ready when the reboot of the economy happens. And thank you, Pradeep, for the interesting presentation and for taking all the questions and for partnering also with VDMA for this event. I think it was quite an interesting event for the SME, MSME sectors, and we had quite a lot of participation also today. So thank you very much, Pradeep. And friends, let me conclude. Stay safe, stay well, and above all, stay optimistic. And thanks, Manohar, for coordinating everything so well. Thank you. Have a good day and all the very best. Thank you, Pradeep. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Bye.